I'm Tom Gundlefinger O'Neill. That's my full name, but here in Monterey, I'm pretty much known as Tom O'Neill. I've been doing photography here since 1981. I'm a commercial photographer. I do weddings, since this is a wedding venue here. I do corporate events, do a lot of golf. I've always compared my career as a rock and roll photographer to that of a wedding photographer. I said I used to photograph 5 guys in black leathers. Now it's 5 guys in black tuxedos. The lead singer of the band is now the groom. And the girl in the white dress, she'd be somebody like Grace Slick or Janice. And then her backup singers are the bridesmaids. And when you shoot a concert, it's similar to shooting a wedding ceremony. You can't say, hey, could you hold that? Hold that thought, wait a minute, can we go back and, can I get this angle? You know, you can't repeat anything like that. And you always have to be steps ahead, and you got to deal with the confusion and the crowds and all that, and all the wedding guests. So there's similarities, you know. So a lot of things I learned when I was a rock and roll photographer, I've carried over, you know, to what I do now. When I was a rock and roll photographer, I shot groups like Steppenwolf, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, The Byrds, Buffalo Springfield, B.B. King. I did a lot of wannabes and never wases. Some of the people that did make it, Poco, Crazy Horse. I've been going through my archives. I found this one group, Waterproof Candle. I said, who is that? And I photographed these guys, and you know, some some I put a lot of heart and energy into, made some beautiful covers, and right after the album was released, the group would break up and then off into oblivion. I would say the Deja Vu cover for Crosby, Stills and Nash is one of my bigger accomplishments. I'm very proud of that. And there's still a tremendous interest for it even today, you know, 40 some odd years later. Last night, I saw Stephen Stills performing up in Santa Cruz at the Catalyst. I took pictures of him for the first time when he was in the Buffalo Springfield. The band was in the studio laying down Cinnamon Girl. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. I think it was about 1967, 68, somewhere around there. And I thought, wow, I've been photographing this guy for a long time. And there he was last night, just fantastic. Just better than ever, you know, owning it. And every song was just as sweet as could be. It was terrific. It's a good feeling, you know, to have the memory so far back and then to see it right now and so present, and it's still really good. Back around early part of '66, I started going to the Fillmore Auditorium. I first went just to see the bands. One of the first I saw was Jefferson Airplane, and Grace Slick wasn't even the lead singer, was Signe Anderson. And I saw Paul Butterfield. I'd never seen anything like this. I realized I got to start taking pictures now. I also saw the Grateful Dead at the Greek Theater, and I had never seen anything with a wall of sound. And I went to that as basically just to watch, and I was like in the 3rd row, and those guys cranked up and hit it. And I was sitting on a chair just like this, metal chair, metal back, and the sound went right through my body, hit the back of the chair, and then came right back out. I was resonating and vibrating with this unbelievable sound. And of course, Jerry was amazing, and Bobby Weir and all, and Phil Lesh was as goofy as he is probably today, you know. It was amazing, Pigpen, the whole thing. And then I said, okay, I really have to start taking pictures. So when Monterey Pop came along and I saw it was going to be here, I realized I got to get in here and I got to get some kind of, you know, photo pass or something like that. It's kind of a long story, but basically it was just very serendipitous in the way I was able to meet Lou Adler and eventually meet Derek Taylor, who gave me my credentials so I could be up there in front. And it involves 2 people that I went to school with from the early days of elementary school and actually in Beverly Hills. And one of them was Terry Melcher, who was, you know, he was one of the guys, one of the directors. And so trying to get together with Terry and knowing that if he was up here, I could see him, and then he would introduce me maybe to Lou Adler. Well, when the guys came up and Terry wasn't there, I just seized the moment, you know. I mean, it's one of those things, we've all had experiences in our life where there's this very narrow window of opportunity. And that one moment, if you act on it right, it could change your life. I acted on it, and it changed my life. So Monterey Pop pretty much started it for me. I was just starting out as a photographer. I was really a fly on the wall, fly on the fence, fly in the dirt, fly against the stage. I didn't have a real good technical knowledge of photography. I was, you know, shoot and learn, and I look at my stuff now and I go, how did I do this? And when Jimi Hendrix burned his guitar, I was to his left, far end of the stage, and I was right up against it. It was, in the photographer's pit was just packed like crazy. And I'm 6'1", the stage was about 7 feet high. So in order to see what he was doing, you had to kind of stand on your tiptoes and hold cameras up like that. And I could barely see him, but when I saw him take the can of Ronson lighter fluid, get down on his knees and ignite the guitar, I was a spectator. I had never seen anything like that. And meanwhile, all these guys are going click, 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 and I'm just going, he's burning his guitar. There you see, he's burning his guitar. You know, I didn't do this. I got it right here, and it's all here, but I didn't do this. And I realized, I'm not going to let that go by anymore. I can't lose that moment, you know. So I learned from that. When Jimi burned his guitar, that taught me a major, major lesson. There were so many things at that. I mean, just going backstage, and they talked about the feeling and the spirit. There was such a positive energy. You just walked around just happy. Everybody was happy. Thousands of people were happy. So I just took as many pictures as I could. I didn't know a lot of the people. There was a tall guy with a big furry hat named John Phillips, and I knew the Mamas and Papas since they were top of the charts then. Little did I know, 2 years later, I would be doing his first solo album, spending time with him, spending time with Lou Adler, getting, you know, his approval on the album design since I designed it as well. In Carmel, I went into a record store and I picked up an album cover. And it was the Mamas and Papas. And it was an album called We Deliver. And I said, I'm going to do this. I had a fine art background and in painting and design, with just a little bit of photography, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I started to manifest something. I know it sounds a little airy-fairy and everything, but it worked. And within no time at all, you know, here comes Monterey Pop. I knew a few people, I had some connections, I'm out there shooting, and 2 years later I'm doing album covers. And that went on for about 7 or 8 years. And it was 24/7. There weren't publicists, there weren't contracts. It was a lot of hanging out. You did most of your connections at parties. And there weren't cocktail parties. They were different kind of parties. And I didn't make a lot of presentations to, you know, to art directors and record companies. It was more, I would meet somebody in the group, and then the group would get me connected to somebody with the record company, and then that, but it was generally through the hanging out. There's a lot of hanging out and a lot of different dialogue. And you didn't say things like, you know, like, yo, what's up? I mean, that didn't exist. You know, it was like, hey man, what's happening? And everything was groovy, you know. It's ridiculous. You hear those words now and you go, I don't believe that I said that, but there's a lot of groovy.